Hey guys, in this video I'll be sharing my experience going to MEPS in August of 2024. For a little bit of backstory, I was prior enlisted Air Force for 6 years as a vehicle mechanic from 2018 to 2024. I just recently got out of my active duty contract, and I have since decided to use my degree that I worked on while I was active duty to try and commission in the Navy as a surface warfare officer. And of course, to become an officer back on active duty, I gotta go back through MEPS just like everyone else. Typically, if you're thinking about going to MEPS, you've probably already talked to a recruiter, as well as hopefully found out a couple jobs you're interested in. And just something to note, if you do have a 4-year degree, you might consider becoming an officer if that is something you're interested in. And to do so, you'd have to talk to an officer recruiter, specifically not an enlisted recruiter. A couple documents you definitely want to be sure that you bring with you is a photo ID, probably your driver's license, maybe a military dependent ID, passport I'm sure works, and you need to bring your social security card, and just as backup I'd also bring your birth certificate. As for the night before your MEPS visit, if you live far enough away from MEPS, hopefully your recruiter set you up with a free hotel stay near MEPS. In my case that wasn't necessary because I live literally 2 minutes from the MEPS building. But if you do stay in the hotel, you should be entitled to a free dinner. Also keep in mind, if you do wear contact lenses, make sure that you wear your glasses the day of MEPS. As for the day of MEPS, you should expect to be waking up probably 4 or 4:30 if you stayed the night at the hotel. They also typically give you breakfast and you'll be shuttled over to MEPS somewhere around 5:30, 5:45. This is highly dependent on what MEPS station you are going to. Typically after arriving in MEPS, you'll be formed up by service you are trying to enter into, and they'll give you a name tag to place on your shoulder. The first thing you're doing once you get into MEPS is putting away your belongings, your cell phone, and your wallet. You only really need to keep on you your social security card and your driver's license. You'll put these items in the personal belonging area. The personal belonging area has video cameras set up, so you don't really need to worry about any of your stuff being stolen. It's safe as it can be in there. Once you do that, you'll be told to head over to the main desk where you'll check in, and once you do a little bit there, they'll send you off to the medical portion. As for the medical portion of this video, I'm gonna go over what I experienced in my most recent visit to MEPS. The order might be a little different when you go to MEPS, but overall it's going to be the same areas that you're going to. The first section I went to was the vision section, and at which the first thing we did was the vision acuity. This is just measuring your eyes uncorrected, so you're not wearing contact lenses or glasses, and you'll be looking at one of those box things on the tabletop, similar to what they have at the DMV. They test both near and far vision here, both uncorrected. The next test I saw was the autorefractor. That's just the machine that reads the prescription strength in your eyes if you wear contacts or glasses. It's just that farmhouse thing. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you wear glasses. Then there was the color vision test. And that's the test where they flip through a booklet and they have little dots, or a bunch of little dots in there, and then a slightly different color of the number inside. The technician was only giving me 3 seconds for the left and the right side number, so you gotta be ready to read it pretty quickly. The last test was the depth perception test. This is a test that you see a lot of people on Reddit and Google talking about because depth perception test is very easy to fail. I'm just gonna talk it over. Hopefully I can help you pass it. You'll stand about 3-ish feet away from this booklet again, only this time you'll be wearing these special glasses that allow you to see the depth perception on the pages. You'll be looking at a series of circles just in a line. The first time I went to MEPS back in 2018, we had 5 circles per line. This time it was only 3 circles per line. You just had to look at the circles and see which one popped out to you. Pretty easy to tell if you have up-to-date glasses prescription. If you're seeing 20/20 in the uncorrected, you should be good to go. There's no time limit for this test, so make sure that you take your time. You can rock side to side, and maybe just circling the group of circles with your eyes can help you identify which one's popping out correctly. And just keep in mind, this is probably one of the most common things to fail at MEPS. If you do fail the depth perception test, it's not a huge deal, depending on the job you're trying to get, but most aircrew jobs, including pilot and a whole bunch of other aircrew jobs, require you to pass the depth perception test. Before MEPS, if you have noticed any blurriness in your distance vision, I would highly recommend going to an optometrist prior to your visit with MEPS, just so you can get an up-to-date prescription, so you'll have the best fighting chance you can against this terrible depth perception test. Even if you don't wear glasses normally, I would still recommend it if the job you're going for requires depth perception, because if you failed depth perception the first time, I heard that they'll not let you come back to MEPS a second time to try and pass the test. So even if you don't wear glasses and you're worried about this test, you could always play it safe and just go to the optometrist and have them test your depth perception prior to going to MEPS, just to be safe. Next test for me was the audio test. This is just when you go in a booth with 6 other people. Could be individual, but for me it was a group setting. You just put on the earmuffs, red on right, blue on left, and you hit the little clicker whenever you hear the sound. Those sounds can be very faint, so just make sure that you're paying attention when the test starts so that you don't get an inaccurate reading. As far as I know, you can't actually be docked points if you hit the button too much. The machine might tell you that you're clicking the button when there's no sound present, but I've heard that sound multiple times throughout my military career, and there's never been any repercussions for that. You just press it a little less and you're good to go. After the audio test, there'll be a tech just to look in your ear real quick, just to make sure there's not too much earwax building up, because later on in the day, the doctor will have to look into your ear. Next, we had the height and weight. We just went in a room, a whole bunch of guys, all same sex, no, don't have to worry about that. We just stripped down to our underwear, got our height and weight, and left out of the room. If you are overweight, you will likely be taped and they'll measure your BMI off of that. So if you're cutting it close on weight, you can still pass on the BMI. After the height and weight, we went to a briefing room where they talked about the rest of the day at MEPS, code of conduct at MEPS, what to expect going forward. In short, the brief was just saying, tell the truth and ask questions if you don't know what you're doing. After the briefing, you'll be doing a urine test to test for drugs in your system. If you have any concern that you're not going to pass that drug section, the drug testing, make sure that you tell that to your recruiter prior to your appointment at MEPS, because this can be disqualifying from military service. If you test positive for a drug that you did not report to your recruiter prior, this can be permanently disqualifying. So make sure you are good to go on both of those before MEPS. And I also recommend, as soon as you wake up in the morning before MEPS, just go to the bathroom, take a big glass of water as well, just to clean out your system, and make sure that you are able to actually provide a sample when the time comes. After the urine test, we went to the blood test where they're just testing for HIV, just your routine blood draw. They take a vial and that's it. Next is your MEPS physician interview. During this time, you'll sit down one-on-one with your physical physician, and you'll be going over your medical history, what you told the recruiter. When you are answering questions, make sure that your answers line up with what you told your recruiter, because if there's any disparity between what you told your recruiter and what you told the MEPS doctor, you might be hung up at MEPS a lot longer, and they might have to dig more into your particular case just to make sure that you're not trying to hide anything. After the interview, you'll head on to the physical exam after probably a couple more hours of waiting. This exam will be a one-on-one with your MEPS doctor, likely the one that did the interview with you. And if the doctor is the opposite sex as you, you'll be provided with a chaperone in the room. First, you'll be stripping down to your underwear, and then the doctor will tell you to do a whole bunch of arm circles and rotating your neck and lifting your legs, squatting down, walking on your heels, walking on your toes, the duck walk, if you don't know what that is. You're pretty much in a squat position, walking heel to toe. It's kind of awkward to do. You might want to practice it before you go to MEPS. You can find other videos of it on YouTube, I'm sure. For males, they'll check you for hernia eventually, so you got to drop your briefs, and then they'll do their thing. And females as well, they're also checking for any abnormalities down there. Both male and females will be checked for hemorrhoids as well by the doctor. You'll just bend over and spread your butt cheeks, which is very awkward. And once that's concluded, you are good to go with the physical exam part. And that concludes the medical screening. Next, you're probably looking at taking the ASVAB if you have not, assuming you're enlisting. It's about a 3.5 hour long test. It's just your standard aptitude test where they're testing math, science, mechanical, electrical, and whatnot. I would recommend studying for this test as your job selection can be limited if you do not score high enough on this test. I'm not at all saying that the ASVAB is a difficult test. It certainly wasn't when I took it, but I also took it when I was in the middle of college. If you have been out of school for a while, I highly recommend studying for that test because, once again, you don't want your job choices limited over something that you do have control of. And if there are any officer applicants out there, you probably would have done your aptitude test already. I already took my OAR about a month ago, so I'm good to go there. At some point at your MEPS day, they'll also be doing fingerprinting. You'll be working with the tech to get all 10 digits, and then that wraps that up. And after that, you'll head on to your job counseling where you'll meet with your service liaison, and you'll go over the list of jobs that you are eligible for based off of your medical screening and ASVAB score. Like I said earlier, your depth perception test can affect these choices that you'll have, so you might want to see an optometrist if you have any concern there, and also make sure that you do well on your ASVAB because you don't want to be disqualified from a job that you really want to do. And if you were told that you're going to need any waivers going forward medically, your service liaison, I believe, is going to be the one that kind of starts that process. Assuming your day at MEPS went good enough, you will be given the chance to take the oath of enlistment, which you should hopefully be saying yes to because that's kind of the whole reason that you went to MEPS. During this time, you are typically able to invite family and friends. Just verify with your recruiter before you have them show up to MEPS. You will also be signing your initial enlistment contract, which is likely somewhere around 4 or 6 years, depending on the branch that you're trying to go into. And just some quick final notes. Back when I first enlisted in 2018, it was a rather difficult process to get through MEPS without any hiccups. Luckily, I was able to, but overall, the military was being much more picky about applicants back then because they had a lot of applicants. And in recent years, they are not being as picky because they are not having as many applicants. So hopefully, if you have any ailments or chronic problems, you're able to get waivers easy and everything goes well for you. I myself had really no issue getting through. Everything went smoothly, minus I was told I needed to get a waiver for my back, but I was already expecting that. But the doctor told me that it should be a rather standard and easy waiver to get, so I really shouldn't have an issue. And I just want to say good luck to everyone who plans to go through MEPS. Hopefully all goes well for you. And if you have any questions for me, go ahead and comment below.